Happy Saturday, it's Serena here. Welcome to the Whole Shift Wellness Kitchen. So, I am in the process of preparing a new magical dish from our friends at Grubby. Harissa sweet potato, red pepper and lentil stew, balsamic dressing, and avocado. Yum! I thought I'd invite you over to see how I'm gonna make this. I literally have not done anything other than washing the fresh ingredients, which consist of plenty of sweet potato, a red pepper, the spice blend which comes in the Grubby recipe box, and then we have a red onion, bunch of kale which I have washed, some cherry tomatoes which I have washed, and then tomato puree which came in the box, agave syrup which came in the box, the lentils came in the box, the parsley I put in the freezer so it lasted longer, so I'll take it out as soon as I need it. The avocado is in the fridge, and the balsamic vinegar came in the pot. I am literally just going to go step by step with you guys, and then I will post a picture of my finished product. So the first thing to do, I've put the oven on and I am warming that up on max because I forgot to do it in advance. So the first thing to do is to peel and chop the sweet potato. I don't think I want to peel it. I'm going to make an executive decision and leave the peel on. And we're just going to chop it into, roughly speaking, 2 centimeter cubes. I'm going to pop this in here. And let me tell you, I love sweet potato so much. There's this huge misconception around carbs being bad for you, right? I eat it all the time in my practice. My problem is that I eat too much carbs. I just love it so much. And so people tend to lump all carbs into the same kind of category of bad carbs. And so they start getting really worried about eating things such as potatoes, whether they're sweet or white, and cereals of any kind, and pastas and breads, and so we become obsessed with restricting the carbs. And I'm not gonna lie, I was there myself. I struggle with the idea of eating carbs myself. In fact, when myself and Eugene first decided to give a go to plant-based eating, my number one first thought that came into my mind is, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm gonna get fat from eating carbs. And so I procrastinated giving it a go for weeks on end because I was genuinely so afraid that by eating carbs, I would put a whole bunch of weight on. And 8 years down the line, since first making the shift, which to begin with, we were only gonna try and see. And now 8 or 9 years down the line, however long it's been, I am pushing 40 and I am in the best shape of my life ever. And 80% of my daily caloric intake comes from complex carbohydrates. The issue is that when people think about carbs and demonize carbs, what they're thinking of is that kind of junky processed stuff, such as takeaways, or also crisps, cookies, and that kind of stuff. And of course, those are the carbs that you want to limit. Not because they are carbs, just because they are highly processed, they are refined. I've got the sweet potato, I'm putting it in a baking tray, just so you know. And yeah, they're not conducive to your optimal health and well-being. but not because they're carbs, because they're processed, refined, and they have a ton of added stuff that's not good, of which generally is refined fats and refined sugars. Okay, I'm gonna do the same with the red pepper. The carbs that you want to load up on, and that chances are, if you are conscious about weight, that you might not be eating enough of, are complex carbohydrates, such as whole grain products, and root vegetables. Really, you can't be eating too much of that stuff. I mean, obviously, you can eat too much of anything, but what I see in my practice, and by the way, we've been doing this for over 20 years combined, transforming the well-being of over 500 professionals across 5 countries, and I systematically see people not eating enough of the right kind of carbs, and therefore feeling like they can't sustain healthy eating because they are not eating enough of the right kind of stuff, of which complex carbohydrates is probably the one thing that most people do not eat enough of. So don't be afraid of all carbs. Be mindful of the better ones versus the ones that you want to be conscious of. And therefore, eat up the sweet potato. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, any cereals like whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, spelt, barley, or even the minimally refined derivatives such as whole grain pasta, whole grain bread, whole grain tortillas. Such good stuff. Okay, I've added the peppers to the tray. And now I'm gonna put half of the Harissa spice blend, which came in the box. Here we go. I'm gonna coat them with this. Only half. I'm gonna keep the other half. Here it says to add olive oil, salt, and pepper. I'm gonna skip the olive oil and keep it lighter. I am going to put a little bit of salt and pepper though. Here's the pepper. Here's the salt. And in goes this, the oven. Fantastic. So that's step 1 done. At this point, we are to finely dice the red onion. I don't generally, oh, this is spoiled. I'm gonna get a new one. Red onion, I'm gonna use 2 little ones. Here we are. So generally, as you might have seen in my previous grabby video tutorial, I would use the food processor to slice my onions because I'm not a big fan of slicing by hand. I generally like to speed things up. But since I'm waiting today for the roasted veggies to finish cooking in the oven, and since I have a little extra time, given that it's Saturday, I'm actually gonna use the knife. And there's something therapeutic about it if you have the time. It's like a moving meditation. Here we go. These are little red onions, so I'm using 2. Now, in vegetables, as you may know, the pigmentation, the color of the vegetable indicates the kind and amount of nutrient that they contain. So the more bright and colored the vegetable, the more nutrient dense it is, generally speaking. Therefore, if you were to choose between using red onion and white onions are always recommended. Red onions are always recommended because being red implies, versus being white, implies that they contain more nutrients. Then obviously, if a recipe calls for white, or if you prefer white in that specific context, you gotta do what works best for you. But if you like them equally the same, then red is always recommended. Okay, so generally speaking, you would fry onions in oil, right? Because I like my dishes to be a bit lighter and fresher, I tend to skip the oil, and I do what is called a water saute. So I saute them in water. So I'm gonna add a splash of filtered water, and I'm gonna put it on here. Give it a good go. Let me cover it first so that it can get nice and warm. And in the meantime, I'm gonna open the window because inevitably onions have that pungent smell. Not a bad thing. They're releasing all their nutrients. Okay, where are we here? We are going to saute the red onion whilst the veggies are cooking. So what I can do in the meantime, whilst the red onion is cooking, I can chop the red tomatoes in half. Red cherry tomatoes, which I love so much. I could eat these like fruit. I can literally just eat cherry tomatoes like grapes. Obviously, I'm generally a bit spoiled because in Italy they really do taste like fruit. But these are pretty good. They're organic ones from, I can't remember where I got them from. Whole Foods, I think, because I used the ones that came in the box to make a salad. Couldn't resist it. And I had to top them up. And fresh fruit and veg. And we underestimate veg as a healthy snack. You put these in a bowl, you season them lightly with whatever your favorite seasonings are. Man, you have yourself a very healthy and delicious snack. The onion started going. I'm going to take this jacket off because I'm feeling a bit warm. I'll be right back. Okay. Veggies are cooking. Onion is going. See, the water is kind of allowing the onion to soften and release its flavor without having to use any oil. And eventually it'll get quite translucent. And within the context of a dish like this, so this is the onion cooking down. Since this is a dish that has a lot of different flavor and a lot of spices, I find that you don't really notice the oil missing. I don't. On the other hand, if there was to be oil in the recipe, I find the recipe becomes quite heavy and greasy, even a healthy recipe like this. So when I know that the swap of the oil out of a recipe is not going to negatively impact the flavor, I tend to always choose to do so. Onion cooking down. This is the stage where cooking down the onion doesn't taste too good, like this initial stage. But then once it's kind of cooked down a bit more, it releases all the flavor and it softens and becomes really sweet. It's delicious. Okay, so chop the tomatoes into half whilst that's happening. And in a second, I'm gonna check. Some of these tomatoes are really small, so I'm gonna leave them whole. In a second, I'm also gonna check the veg in the oven. I mean, look at the colors now already. You have the red onion, the green kale, which is gonna go in later, the red cherry tomatoes. You know that you're eating stuff that contains nutrients just by looking up how many colors are in one dish. Green, red in the cherry tomatoes, red in the pepper, sweet potatoes, which are kind of orange, the lentils, which are brown, you know. Onions are cooking down. Yes, I might need to add another splash of water in a minute. In fact, I definitely do. You want it to cook quite softly. I'm not a big fan of raw onions, and nor is Eugene, so I like to always make sure that they're cooked down quite a bit. Okay, let's check the veg. I know it's not gonna be ready at all. It's far from ready. I can give it a little stir. I could have potentially used a bigger tray. Didn't realize I had that much sweet potato going. Yeah, I love sweet potato. Okay. Okay. So, everything is cooking up. Just to take you step by step, once the red onion is cooked down, I will add the tomatoes to the onion, the rest of the spice blend, the tomato puree, the syrup, salt and pepper, the lentils, which I can now rinse, and 200 ml of water. Yum. These recipes are brilliant, beginner-friendly recipes. The guys set you up for success massively in that they give you every single thing you need other than oil, salt, and pepper. Let me start measuring the water in advance. It says it wants 200 ml. Here we are. So not very much water at all. Here we are, 100 ml. And in the meantime, once the onion finished cooking, I can take this little lentil pouch and rinse it. Pre-cooked, microwavable grains and legumes are such a fundamental staple. I didn't see, which everybody should always have in their kitchen, because when things get a bit mad and you want to create a nice, delicious, healthy meal, in minutes, all you need is a sachet of your legume of choice, lentils, beans, chickpeas, peas of any kind, a sachet of your favorite grains, quinoa, brown rice, spelt, barley, or even the mixes. They sell the mixes that contain more than one grain. And some frozen veg, which you can quickly steam in the microwave, or fresh veg if you have it, or salad even. any veg, and you have yourself a deliciously healthy meal in minutes. Onions are almost there. I'm gonna let them caramelize a little bit now. Even if they get a little bit sticky in the pan, it's not a bad thing. Let me taste one, see if it's sweet now. Yeah. Yum. They've released all the flavor, no bitterness, no harshness. They're just delicious and sweet. So at this point, we add the, I'm gonna turn it down ever so slightly so it doesn't go crazy. I'm gonna add the chopped cherry tomatoes. Chopped cherry tomatoes. Harissa spice blend. Bam. Tomato puree. All of these things came into the box. Easy peasy. Let me turn it way down. The spice blend tastes amazing. It smells amazing. Tomato puree is a magical secret ingredient, which, me being Italian, I know all too well because we use it a lot in Italy. And it adds a delicious richness and depth to any recipe. You can add it to stew. I add it when I cook my legumes from scratch, when say I make beans, lentils, or whatever it is. And then we add agave syrup, which I totally get it. Adds a little bit of a sweet touch to the tomatoes that can be quite acidic actually. And agave syrup is an amazing sweetener because it has a very low glycemic index in that it gets absorbed in your bloodstream very slowly. So it doesn't cause those spikes in your bloodstream. And then we add the lentils. The water, and we stir it quite well so that all the ingredients get combined. This is a very balanced dish. You have the veggies, of course. Eventually, we're also going to add greens, which are such healthy veggies that literally they make up their own category. They're so healthy. Everybody should have like 2 or 3 servings of just greens every single day. And then you have your spices and aromatics, which are amazing because they increase the absorption of nutrients in the dish when you add things such as onion, garlic, and all the other spices. Chili, paprika, yada, yada, yada. Great, I'm just looking through. I can get rid of all of this. So this is to simmer for 4 to 5 minutes. Let me put it just a little bit slightly up. At some point, I'm supposed to add the kale to the veggies in the oven so that it can get roasted. Here it calls for a separate tray. But I think I'm just going to roast it in with everything else. Man, how much do I love kale? Like I can literally just eat it like that. A bunch of kale. So just to take you to the final steps, once this is cooked for 4 to 5 minutes, we'll add the parsley, which, like I said, I stored in the in the freezer because I didn't want it to spoil. Those kind of fresh herbs have a tendency of not staying fresh very long if you don't store them properly. But if you keep them in the freezer and then you just use them when you cook, they keep very fresh in the freezer. Okay, I'm gonna actually taste this. It calls for salt and pepper and I haven't added any yet. You guys, this looks amazing. Yeah. Definitely needs a little bit of salt. It's actually quite spicy. The Harissa blend is quite spicy, which is a good thing. I'm gonna show this to you because it looks amazing. This is kind of the stew part of the dish. I know you can't see all too well, but I'll post pictures like I did last time of the final product. Okay, so this is done. Pretty much in a minute I'll add the parsley to the stew. The stuff in the oven is still cooking. I think at some point I'll add the kale, probably any minute. And then the final ingredient is balsamic to put on top when you serve and sliced avocado, which obviously I will add at the very last minute. Let's have a look at the roasted veg. You can see they're cooking quite well. They're not quite done yet, although they will go in the pan at some point. So they're not far off. Not far off at all. I think it's time to add the kale to this veggie mix. Actually, they might almost pretty much be done. I'm just going to add the kale, give it a few minutes. See, these recipes are incredibly easy, you guys. I mean, look how quickly this stuff got done. I'm just chatting to you. I don't know, it hasn't even been full half an hour, I don't think. Turn this down to a minimum. I've added the kale. I'm going to put it in the oven for just a few more minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to add the parsley to the stew. The parsley. Literally from frozen, straight in. Give it a little stir. And I think pretty much the stew is ready. Now that I've added the parsley. Look, the green has really completed it. It's added the one missing color. Let's taste it. Yum. Okay, I'm gonna turn this down. Okay. The kale just needed a flash moment in with the veg. I like my kale quite crunchy anyways, so I don't want it overcooked. Smashing. Okay. I'm gonna add the stuff in the oven. to the pan. And then just stir it in. So good, you guys. And it's so easy. Like, I can't believe it. It just feels like we've been chatting in just a few minutes and it's ready. This is a lot of sweet potato, which I have no complaints about. Bam! Bob's your uncle. Stir it in. Very nice. And then when I serve it, I'm going to add the avocado and the balsamic vinegar. This smells amazing. I don't know if you can see it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to plate it up nicely and then show you a picture of the final product. Yeah! Uber delicious. Probably just needs a smidge more salt and pepper, my suspect is. I suspect. Let me try a bit of all the ingredients. Wow. You guys, so good. This is a winner. I'm gonna plate it up nicely and show you a picture. And stay tuned for more healthy cooking with me and Grubby. This one was the Harissa sweet potato, red pepper, and lentil stew with balsamic dressing and avocado. I'll show you a picture of the final product. Ciao for now.